Welcome to 10 Women, bringing together 10 women with 10 thought-provoking questions based on one theme.
During this episode of 10 Women, we hear 10 different answers to this question. In what situations do you turn to women from different generations for guidance or advice?
Women seek out other women to ask for advice, but when do you turn to different women of different generations to help you?
I was thinking about this question, and I'm a teacher. I teach college classes, so I have a lot of students who are like between the ages of 18 and 25. So I'm thinking, there's different generations. But I never think about going to them for advice or guidance because there's that power dynamic in the classroom.
Yeah.
So I tend to stay with women who are my age or older.
Yeah, that makes sense. And for me, it wasn't so much different generations, but people who had experienced something different. So for me, going through menopause, I look at women who have already gone through that process to make sure that I'm not going crazy, that what I'm experiencing is kind of the same path that they walked. Before we hear the 10 answers, remember to take a moment to think about your own answer to this question.
In what situations do you turn to women from different generations for guidance or advice? And don't forget that we want to hear your answers too. Follow our 10 Women series on Instagram to share your thoughts and to read the responses of others in our community. Visit our website to find other ways to connect.
Hi, my name is Michelle. I am a gynecologist, bicyclist, and someone who loves life. I would think that actually it's not the situations necessarily that I will turn to people. It's more of I'm a collector of ideas, thoughts, and experiences. Again, one of the beauties of my job as a gynecologist is I get to see women of all walks of life, all sizes, shapes, ages, and listening to them and kind of understanding the experiences they've had, the mistakes they've made, the things that they are going through. Being able to understand what it is they're going through and then being able to help them through it then allows me to maybe later on in the same situation be able to understand how I should react, how I should go through that experience. And no two people are the same, but oftentimes I collect these little things in the back of my mind to say, okay, I remember this. I remember that somebody said this at one time, that they were doing this, and this is what they did to be able to help themselves through it. And so try very hard to enjoy and work on that. And as I said, I get to see patients of all sorts of different generations, so it's fun sometimes to understand how one group is doing versus another. I think that the experience of finding yourself and understanding who you are and managing relationships has not changed. I think that getting through the world and making sure that you doing what you want to, being able to have your place in the world has. Younger generation is a little bit different with the things that they have to go through with social media and things that are going on with bullying and the idea of having to be everybody being the same has always been there, but now it's just taken to the next level. But I think as far as getting to where you want to be, as far as your path in life, your career, and who you want to be, that not much has changed about that, I don't think.
I am Leanna Martin, and I am an aunt, a daughter, and a friend. I mean, everything, really. I just like to get the opinions of the people around me, friends, because I have friends of all ages. I have some friends that are my mom's age, anywhere along the spectrum. I mean, I like to ask them what they're doing, like where they're finding bargains, how they're doing with financial planning, anything really. I can reach out to them to talk about all kinds of stuff. Women's health issues, that too. Yeah, like we were talking about traveling. I have a friend who is older than I am. I think she is in her 50s, and she's from the area over near the Grand Canyon. So I think she's from Flagstaff, she says. And so she gave me some advice as to places I can stay, things I can see when I go over there. So that was a good resource.
My name is Judy Fowler. I am an educator, a mom, and a team player. I feel like my life is so work-driven at this point that's just where when I'm able to be around other people, it's usually work. You know, when it comes to social settings with children, I'm a only child, but I enjoy being home, and we have lots of friends, but we'd just rather stay home. So when it comes to asking those types of questions, I'm usually in a work setting. So I do think about different reasons of why I would need to talk to different women at different stages. So being on a college campus and different situations, especially since being an educator, post-COVID education is different. And even the whole, reflecting on just even trying to be a teacher educator during COVID and health and physical education, how do we get new teachers to understand I have to teach facing a camera, trying to engage students. That was one thing. And oftentimes I will ask different opinions based on experiences like in teacher education. Okay, so for example, when I would have an issue come up with a student teacher teaching online, I would ask children or, what was like for you when you were on, just to gain perspective. So it's really all about the perspective. So I know during COVID it was a lot about teaching online as the teacher and other teachers, veteran teachers, younger teachers, but also the other side as the student, what was it like? So I'd like to get that perspective. But to the original question, for now, it's more of, did your body do this? Or is this, like these stages that I'm experiencing that I will call on other people more jokingly? I think I always say that my first VIA character strength is humor. So I always like to bring a little humor into what I do because I think we need more humor, especially now in our world after this election. We need lots of humor. I think that it's more of gaining different perspectives on others' experiences. Sometimes I feel like my experiences can be the same, but I do feel because of, having my life dedicated to athletics and sport, that I don't feel that I'm experiencing some of the same things that my peers may be, if that makes any sense. I think sometimes it's more about my own personal health that I'll ask those questions now because I'm seeing different things change. One big thing is, have I even hit perimenopause yet? I think about that quite often because I see people, and I really remember what my mom would do. She was a little bit earlier, I think, in her 40s or late 40s, but all of a sudden she'd wear layers, but all of a sudden she'd rip the top layer off and she's like beet red and sweating. I'm like, did you just eat 14 jalapeno peppers? What just happened? When I was younger trying to figure that out. But even for me now, I still have not had any of those symptoms, but then other things will happen that it's more of a mood or the mental health piece. So I'm really trying to navigate that. Again, talking earlier, my parents, we don't talk a lot about a lot of things, so I've always had to lean on other people to get my advice. Maybe that was good or bad, I don't know. But I feel like it's more of a pulse check for me. I think when it comes to certain situations as a professor, I do like to talk to my students just to gain their perspective on things. But it's interesting, I want to go really deep sometimes, but the answers I get are really shallow in the sense of there's not enough time or they don't know exactly how deep I want to go. So I don't know how much information I'm really accessing with that. So I'm not so sure that's really a reliable source to me. I think it's more if I have to trust and where I'm going with that information. It's more about me. I can articulate it's my body, how I feel, and hoping that other women have experienced that, or I've heard them say yes or no, or I've heard them say it, so therefore I'll say, oh, I need to remember to maybe check in with this person about certain things so I can make sure what I am feeling or thinking is real.
My name is Susan Sassman, and I am an extrovert, a creative visionary, and a nurturing kind of gal. As a grandmother, I might ask my other friends who are grandmothers how that feels to them, how they deal with their children and their grandchildren. I process with like-minded women who have had like experiences, and that's always feels good. As an event planner, I look to much younger women, from 19 up to maybe 60, to see what music they listen to and the ways they communicate. I also do a lot of work in politics, and it's very interesting to me how the younger women might view pro-choice, for example, or any of the women's issues, the feminist issues and how they stand on that. Because if you don't understand where they're coming from, you really can't help shape the narrative, because it's not really all about me or my friends in my age group. So leaning on women who are older than me to kind of lead the path forward and how to navigate that landscape, and then looking to the younger women to help inform me about what's hot and what's not in their group. And then with the women who are in my group, like when I was raising children, I really relied on the company of other moms who had small children so that I wouldn't lose my mind, and get together and, and just bring up all the things that are hard about marriage, about children, about sleeplessness, etc. So I've always looked to the company of women of all ages to help me get more centered and to just be able to look at the world through different lenses. So I value them a lot. Old and young, really, and the peers.
My name is Ann Sparks-Baumgardner, and I am a caregiver. I'm a member of a women's organization that I'm very passionate about. I am a cyclist. I'm a road cyclist, and I love being out of doors. I belong to a women's organization, and a lot of the other members are older than I am, and so in seeing them and how they have progressed, I say, well, that's going to be me, in 10 years, learning from them. Well, certainly younger people for the technology. It comes second nature to them. But I'll be honest, I don't have that much experience, or it just seems that my life circumstances, I'm not around young people very much at all. So that's a hard one.
My name is Terry Wiggins, and I am a woman. I am a mother, and I am a daughter. Well, technology is the big one. I also ask for, I love to cook, and so I often ask for good, healthy recipes from other people. I ask for what books people have read or where people have traveled and look for tips. I think that asking people about their spiritual life is something I really appreciate. What have they delved into? What has made a difference for them? And I've also asked people for how to start businesses. I've had a couple of businesses myself, and it's been really great to ask other people's advice for that one.
My name is Abigail Dunn Moses, and I am an educator of adults who heals the brokenhearted in every situation. And let me tell you why I say that. In my home that I grew up in, lots of people came to my parents for advice. So I could see the stream of people coming for advice. And sometimes I would get to listen in on what they wanted advice about. So the whole idea of getting advice was something that I bought into very early on in my life. And I was let's just put it, an extraordinary child, because I myself had my own advice-giving business at a very young age. I called it a business, tongue-in-cheek, because people would come to me for advice that were 2x, 3x, 4x my age. And even my parents would do that. My father would sometimes say, well, let's see what Abigail has to say about this. Well, it goes from the sublime to the ridiculous. Okay, let's start with the ridiculous. I had to go to an event, and I have to decide what I want to wear. And of course, just like every other woman, I have absolutely nothing to wear. And so I start thinking about what might be good, and then I call one friend who sort of has more of a African kind of texture to the clothing, the jewelry they wear. I'll call another friend who's maybe a little Floridian and, you know, kind of flowery, kind of, you know, and then I'll call another friend who's maybe a plain Jane, you know, who just tell me, just put your black dress on, shove up some jewelry and get out the door, you know? I have what I call a board of directors. And there was a time where the board of directors made all the decisions for me, and I was not the decision maker until I fired the board of directors. And now I have a board of directors that are friends, that are affirming, that are supportive, that don't make decisions for me, because it's not about a dependency, it's about empowering. So that's the ridiculous example. The sublime example has to do with post-divorce, and what does that mean for me and my relationship with men. So I do a lot of talking about that, a lot of examples, you know, staying open to learning, not being broken by the more trying parts of that. So lots and lots and lots of advice.
My name is Kimberly Burke, and I'm a human, a teacher, and a lover. Oh, I asked the kids, but I don't have older women in my life.
Different generations can be young.
Yeah, I do. I ask them all the time. Typically because I want to compare what my brain is thinking to what an 18-year-old brain thinks about a particular situation. So I ask a lot of people because I'm very extroverted anyway. And I just am interested in how, you know, sometimes I think I'm an anomaly. And many times I realize that I am. and how I think about things and how I approach the world. And so my students are really where I ask. I wish that I had older generations to ask. I just don't have access to older people.
You do ask. What kinds of questions do you ask?
I ask a lot of existential questions because I want them to step out of themselves. You know, they're so narcissistic at that age, typically, to get them to think about their futures. I think particularly this generation is really struggling with that, being able to envision a future. And because I'm in an HBCU, I'm kind of in a unique position as an older white woman to really dig deep with some topics, especially in light of what's going on in the world right now. Getting them to think about things like generational wealth. You know, why are you buying your 15th pair of $400 sneakers? You could be setting that up in the stock market and, you know, you'll have a house one day, or you'll... because I feel like society, and this is just going to be a political commentary, but that they set them up not to have generational wealth. And they don't realize it. You know, they're buying right into buying the grills and the cars and the shoes and the hair and the nails and the... Sometimes it's a simple question like, they'll say, I want, or I need new shoes. Do you need new shoes or do you want new shoes? And then that starts the conversation. And it's my favorite part of what I do.
My name is Marie Leonard, and I am a mom, a daughter, and an energetic lover of life. I feel like one of the things I value about the creative spaces and my faith space is that we're really intergenerational. I can think about we had a crafting night at my house from church because I teach a crafting and contemplation class at Lent. And so I had like my alumni over, and we had a robust intergenerational from 20s to 60s conversation about pelvic floor health. And it was so good. I didn't, there were things I didn't know, and we were able to share information and, you know, what do you need to know at this age or this stage, or, oh, have you tried that therapy? And that was really helpful. So I feel like in some spaces you can kind of have a deeper, broader, group of people who you can hear from, younger people who can say like, well, I heard on TikTok, which I'm like, I love that. But also what? But I think that that's sort of nice to be able to at least know what's happening in the zeitgeist, but also talk to someone who may have experience as well. So I feel like creative spaces, even in my cross-stitch guild, you know, we have a lot of people who've dealt with cancer or aging parents or rowdy kids, and so we can just have a conversation while we're engaging in the thing that we all share, our craft, but at the same time we're able to have these other conversations. And so that I feel like is the space where we can have the kind of intergenerational, and it's so good because it doesn't mean that one person has all the information. We all have little bits and pieces. At our church, we have a lot of 20 to 32, like that 20 to 35 group, and they're just very happy to hang out with us. That's the other thing I think is, like, I appreciate younger people who are happy to hang out with people who have gray hair and don't just assume because, you know, I'm at a different stage of my life, I have nothing that I can offer them. So I think there's like, I appreciate people who are open to like, let's all have a seat at the table. Because sometimes I think, I'm sure when I was younger, I may have been a little Gen X jaded about gray hair. And I feel like younger people aren't as jaded. And that's because our Gen X aging is better.
My name is Abigail Seymour, and I am an entrepreneur, a lawyer, and an Enneagram 7. I was thinking about this, like at my age now, most of the big moments, other than, you know, dying, God forbid, as we go forward, but I mean, most of those moments I've lived through, so I'm often the person to give the advice. You know, I've been through childbirth, I've been through loss and divorce and adoption and all these different big life moments. My mom is 95 and she's in her dying process now. And we've said all the things we need to say to each other, and I am able and grateful to be there with her and hold her hand. And she said, I just saw her this morning, and she said, we had such a good time, didn't we? So, I mean, I turned to her to reflect back on what we experienced together. And again, it goes back to what I've said before, since I'm very much my own friend, I wouldn't say I seek out advice as much as maybe I should, you know, asking for guidance. A lot of times it's about relationships, though, just, you know, how could I handle something better? How could I be kinder? How could I be more compassionate? And younger women will help with that as well as older women. So I think it just depends on the situation.
So let's remember the question. In what situations do you turn to women from different generations for guidance or advice?
How difficult was this question for you to answer? Be honest. After you answer this question for yourself, think about reaching out to other women in your life for their answers.
Remember to share your answers with us in our 10 Women series on Instagram. We can't wait to read your answers. And speaking of answers, we've actually got some different answers on our Instagram page. That's because we asked all the women surprise questions to learn more about them. Join us on Instagram at 10 Women Series to hear their answers.
We hope you will join us every Tuesday for a new episode wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. This series is distributed both as an audio only and a YouTube video format to allow you to enjoy each episode your preferred way. Be sure to visit our website at www.sassyyam.com to learn more about this series and all the places you can find us. 10 Women is a production of Sassy Yam Media. Amy Brown and Sarah Howard, producers. Feel free to send us an email at sassyyammedia@gmail.com. Special thanks to the women of Season 1, Kimberly Burke, Judy Fowler, Michelle Horvath, Marie Leonard, Leanna Martin, Abigail Dunn Moses, Susan Sassman, Abigail Seymour, Ann Sparks Baumgaudner, and Terry Wiggins.